integrating 20 studios is a lot of work.
They're
Let's
just
be honest.
choking on that, dude. They're just
It's like one of those snakes, like when they grab like a gazelle. You're like, how is that snake gonna eat that gazelle?
They're
and
like
then you watch for
hibernating.
next 2 hours.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Games 371. I'm Jen Donahoe. I fill the marketing and publishing role on the podcast. Today we have
Mishka Katkoff, founder, friend. I tried to do it for the first time, be the first time. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You guys talk about car paints. They talked about car paints before this started, so I'm aggravated.
It's PPF, dude. Paint protection film. Is there a crest strategy in investing?
Phil Black monetizations are.
All right, here's what we have on today's
Third
episode. We are not talking about cars anymore. The creator catastrophe for Clash Royale. Say it, a lot of C's. After Supercell's CEO blog, Savvy continues its buying spree, rumored to take MoonTon off Bad Dance's hands for $6 or $7 billion. Little pocket change. Overwatch drops the 2 from their last Overwatch spotlight. Habi portfolio isn't too happy. Phil breaks it down for us. The future of AI in games. We're going to react to Owen Mahoney's blog post. This was supposed to be on our docket last week, but we moved it to this week so we could spend more time. And then if we get there, the toy wars become digital wars as Mattel and Hasbro expand their digital efforts. Mattel acquires Mattel 163, and Monopoly Go licensing revenue is up 50% year on year. Holy crap. So MGO still kind of working and delivering for Hasbro, that's for sure. So also, I just wanted to do a little DICE rumor mill. I heard a positive disturbance in the force that Pixel Flow, which is the casual game that we covered on the pod a few weeks ago. I think there was a Deconstructor of Fun deconstruction. Yep. Keep an eye on them is what I am hearing. There might be some action going on with Pixel Flow. So, Mishka, what else do you want to say?
We were not covering Matthew Ball's State of the Game Industry slide deck. I know that is highly expected, but we're still searching for something that hasn't been presented by other and discussed on this podcast before. I believe we'll be covering it next week.
You're not going to find anything. The whole thing was just a repeat of last year. And I honestly, I don't think we're going to cover Matthew Ball until he's actually intellectually honest about his catastrophe of a book called Metaverse, right? Which is an absolutely ridiculous thing. So until he actually comes clean about that, like,
it was ridiculous times. It was then. It was 2021, 2022. Whatever happened then doesn't count.
He lost all credibility in the gaming industry with that book.
All right. Well, everyone's going to be disappointed that we're not going to spend an hour shitting on that. So what are we shilling, Mishka?
Long list of shilling. So let's talk first about GDC. Now we have finally all the links. So if you get the Deconstructor of Fun newsletter, you can sign up for there. Sunday, kickoff with Beta Hat and Deconstructor of Fun party. Monday, we're hosting State of Gaming Summit. There's going to be a summit. There's going to be a happy hour. There's going to be a dinner. So that's a really, really interesting event. Tuesday, morning side brunch for product marketing friends. Wednesday, we have the supper club for our HD friends with Newzoo and Heroic Labs. And I believe we have media passes, all of us, so we can actually record at GDC because they have these podcast recording things, right?
Yes. So I'm actually talking to them right after this because they created a podcast booth. And so we're going to do an on-site podcast. And then thanks to GDC for recognizing us as media. Like, I feel so important. It's like Severance. There's media Jen and consulting Jen. And we made it, guys. Like, we're recognized as media. I'm actually getting PR emails now. Like, this is so cool.
Embargoes.
I know. It's awesome. What else?
On content side, so we have review of Supercell's annual newsletter. Then we have a UA monthly dropping in this Friday. So that's with Josh Chanley, who's my co-host. And we have a rotating expert. So please check out who's the co-host for the Friday this month edition. And finally, to complete my transformation into a marketer, I am on Gaming Marketing Surviving 25 Winning 26 webinar with my lifting buddy, John Wright. This is Napslyer's seminar. Again, link on the Deconstructor Fun newsletter. If you want to see me bomb talking about UA, this is the webinar to check out.
Can I talk to these people? Like, Do they know who you are? I do not understand.
Over the past year, they reached out about marketing content and Jen wasn't available. And so I started picking up slack. And in a year, I have transformed into my true self, which is a marketer.
All right. Well, I'm doing product podcasts and
Yeah,
transforming
you have
into
been.
a product person.
You've been
Actually,
doing
I
live
have
ops podcasts.
I know.
Exactly.
It's true. It's
So
true.
we're cosplaying.
Okay. That is true.
Game devs. Here at Heroic Labs, we know that great gameplay is what players love, but integrating metagame features like challenges, progression, and rewards is crucial for retention and monetization. But coding them is a tedious and time-consuming process. That's why top studios have turned to Hero from Heroic Labs. Hero provides a complete suite of battle-tested metagame features that are quick to implement, letting you spend more time on the core gameplay experience. Ready to ship fully featured engaging games? Check out Hero today at heroiclabs.com.
Eiffel Tower, iconic. Tower of London, historic. The two towers, simply epic. But none of them tell you anything about mobile app intelligence. Downloads, revenue, active users, and my personal favorite, weekly cohorted retention. Get the real story, get the real data, get Sensor Tower today.
All right. I don't think we have any corrections, although one of the things I wanted to mention going into our first topic is last week when we covered the Supercell's Ilka's CEO letter, we hadn't yet heard of the creator controversy. So let me just recap kind of what happened coming after the Supercell blog post. So Jinxie accused the company of failing to acknowledge the creator's role in the game's 2025 revival. The controversy centered on a blog post that Ilka made. I think it was like in early February. And in the blog post, basically Ilka was, talking about the game's success, coming from a lot more of internal reasons. And so what this prompted from the creators was demands for better recognition, improved creator-developer communication, a lot of game changes. Apparently they hate heroes, Phil. You can tell me all about that later on. And then a potential boycott. So all over the internet, so last week was Friday the 13th. There's this image, if you are watching on YouTube or Spotify video, where they were trying to promote a Friday the 13th boycott of Clash Royale. I'm not sure it actually did anything, but a lot of the creators, I think, stopped streaming until some of their demands were going to be filled. So Ilka, just so you know what he came out and said pretty quickly after this happened, within a day or two, in his update. Since the blog was posted on the 10th of February, I have seen the reaction to Clash Royale section, and I want to address it directly. In short, I failed to acknowledge the role of creators, pro players, and the broader community, and the role that they played in Clash Royale's resurgence. That was my mistake, no one else's, and it runs counter to everything I believe about the impact creators have on our games and business, and I am sorry. I'm actually really happy to see good crisis management response here. So there are 3 key steps in crisis management that you should follow if you are a PR person or a comms person. 1, acknowledge the issue. 2 is the top person takes responsibility for the issue. And then 3 is you overcorrect on the response to the issue. So the overcorrection part seems to still be in process. They're trying to clean up the meta. Like, that's what's going on. They're fixing things. They're nerfing things. There's a lot of broken mechanics. And then Cress, last week, I forgot to kind of bring up why the revenue declines were happening. You were saying it was just potentially pulling back on UA. One of the things when I was talking to Bernard Kim, his kid plays Clash Royale and spends a shit ton of money. And he's 12, by the way, going to the whole thing that, one of my beliefs is that 12-year-olds are saving Supercell right now. He spends an insane amount of money. And he is the first one who alerted Bernard to the fact that the game was making such shitty changes with season 16 that a lot of the players were leaving. So all of this happens to be, in a flywheel that happens. I think the final learning here is beyond crisis PR framework is we have to recognize that creators are a vital part of the ecosystem now. And when you consider everything going on, it's the flywheel of product success, leveraging the KPIs, organic and paid marketing all come into it. It's like Voltron. The sum is greater than the whole of the parts on this. So Phil, let's fight. Go for it.
Where to start? So I think the first piece, there's 3 pieces. So I think the first part is what's going on in the game. I think that's one piece. I think the second piece is what is the impact of streamers on Clash Royale's success this summer. I think the third piece is what you do about the PR. So I'd say briefly on the game piece, the team has been trying to find their next runway after Evolutions. Evolutions was a brilliant design they introduced into the game. You take a card, you pay to evolve it, and then when you play the card in the game, once you on your second or third time playing it within a round, it has its evolved state that it's summoned as. It is a brilliant design. It's just classic Supercell doing something that adds depth and also gives them a lot of monetization runway. There's only so many cards that they can evolve. So there's a limited runway and they're trying to find their next big beat, and that was Heroes. So Evolutions, there's only a certain amount of evolutions you can have in your deck. You can't run 8 evolutions. You can only run a certain number of slots. And this is the same with Heroes. So you can choose these heroes, and they have, again, their own monetization system similar to Evolutions. You need to collect hero shards, and that's so that you can price it and they can progress heroes at a given rate separate from other parts of the game. This is why you have different currencies to control certain parts of the game. So players are pissed because they feel like it's very pay to win. There's also real-time elements with the heroes. So the heroes have abilities. So when you summon a card, when you summon a hero, you then have an ability that's attached to that hero that you can summon in round, which does, I would argue, feel like a betrayal of some of their design. I'm not a big fan of these kind of real-time reactions rather than the strategy. But look, I think you could have made the same pay-to-win allegations about Evolutions. And to be honest with you, it's a power progression game. Of course there's fucking pay-to-win. I don't know what to tell you kids. So I would say that's one piece. That's kind of where the game is. They are trying to rebalance things. Some of the heroes were overpowered. This is the normal thing players complain about, right? It's the buff monetization cycle. Come out with a new monetization mechanic. It feels overpowered. Get the revenue, debuff it. I don't think it's intentional. I think this is them just trying to find their next runway for the next 1 to 2 years of what they're going to monetize. So that's the game piece. Streamer piece, I think, is far more interesting. And I would say we have some data. I know, Jen, you brought some as well. So we're looking at Twitch numbers right now for Clash Royale. And of course, the thing we just need to come to this debate about is that we're never going to be able to understand the true impact of streaming because, first of all, we're only looking at Twitch. There's also YouTube, although a lot of the streamers for this game were on Twitch. The other thing we don't know is kind of the K factor when it comes to streaming. So it's not just the people streaming, it's the video clips that come afterwards. It's the impact of the people watching the streams. There's just a lot of noise, I think, in trying to evaluate what the true impact of that is. This is at least a floor. And the reason I'm skeptical about the impact of streaming is when we look at the peak number of viewers for Clash Royale in August and July 2025, so when the game was blowing up, was around 100,000. So to give you context, Clash Royale's DAU is 40 to 60 million. 40 to 60 million against 100,000 streamers. So it's very hard to square those two things together. And of course, is it X causing Y or is it Y causing X? Is the game popular, so therefore it's getting a lot of streams? Or are we very popular? We're kind of buying streams, or we're influencing creators, and that's why they're streaming it. So I have skepticism just looking at these numbers, even when we caveat that. So very quickly, last piece. I think this was an awful groveling response by Ilka. I thought this was pathetic. I think this is absolutely pathetic. And I don't think this is how you deal with teenagers, especially when we just talked about High Guard, right? We just talked about High Guard and how the internet whips themselves into a frenzy because this is content for them, right? And as Aristotle said, politics is the struggle for recognition. And these people feel like they want to be recognized. This was not the right place to do it. There is blood in the water and they have attacked Supercell. They know that they're listening now. And so they're going to go after Supercell. And this wasn't the proper way to do this. You do not negotiate with terrorists. What you should have done is done a separate event that celebrated creators, which was in no way a response to their tantrum. This isn't how you deal with gamers. We need a new PR playbook for how you deal with internet agitators. And this is not it. Stop giving oxygen to this fire. Cut it out. Do not pour more fuel starter on the flames. This only makes things worse, in my opinion.
Well, hold on. What would have you done then? I understand you said arrange an event, but to do an event, that takes such a long time.
They have player cards. You could have made a player card for the streamer. You could have done an interstitial. You could have done a streaming event. I think they have a variety of cheap tool bag options that they could have gone to that would have celebrated creators in a distinct and different way rather than making it a direct response to this tantrum.
Do not listen to the advice of Philip Black.
I agree with Jen because the handling, in my opinion, was as Jen, you said, the best type of crisis communication possible. Supercell edits the post. CEO apologizes for leaving out the creators who had clear impact. He explicitly credits the creators and names Jinxie. That's superb comms. The correction is
8 million
swift.
followers.
Yeah.
Jinxie
there's
has 8 million, and he
Exactly.
brought in Mr. Beast to start playing the game again.
Yeah. It was swift. It wasn't defensive. It was practical. There was no grandstanding. There was no, what Phil suggests, stay in your lane, boy. Just, like, fair point. We'll adjust. Thanks. Mine bad.
Look, I hate to be the old man in the room, just repeating what I said last week, is that there was some lie by omission here. Like the fact that they didn't even mention marketing in the entire piece that Ilka put together. There was some reason why they didn't do this. And this includes not giving credit to these influencers who actually helped boost this game. There is a definitional issue here. Like I would consider anything that you give to creators paid UA, right? I mean, just at the end of the day, there was a reason why he wanted to tell this live op story, and he forgoed talking about anything else besides what the teams have done in terms of building this game, and failed to mention marketing at all, which I think was a far bigger piece than the design changes that they've made, right? Although that obviously they are relatively significant. But I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, but like he got himself into trouble because he went out of his way not to talk about this in
Correct.
that piece. So
yeah, I think what's important is in mobile specifically, it is one team, one dream. It is a flywheel that happens between the product, between the marketing, and now creators are a core part of this. So let me just talk a little bit about at Supercell's creator program, which everyone holds up as one of the best programs that's out there. So you basically, each creator gets a code, and when a player redeems the code in the game, they get 5% of that revenue on the gem purchase or whatever the hard currency is. So a creator does, in a sense, they are incentivized to stream the game because they do get revenue coming out of that. And so they also get early access to game assets. They get update information. They get merch. They get into the Creator Academy, which teaches them how to be, a better creator. They have 300,000 creators in the program across all of their games, not just Clash Royale. And they have 2.2 billion followers coming out of this creator program. So I know, Phil, to your point, is some of the stats that we see on some of the different, whether it's Twitch, whether it's YouTube. So this is that 2.2 billion is like the aggregate. And that is across all the games. It's not just Clash Royale. I don't think that these are terrorists. These are your most loyal fans. These are the people that live and die and breathe for your game. And I think they were just left out of the victory lap conversation. And I think any of us would be pissed. I'm a marketer. I would have been pissed. It's like, wait, you're showering all the love on the product team? Like, what about what we did to help support the game? And so I think the hard thing is when you're giving kudos out, people can get butthurt if you leave out certain people. I just want us to know, again, it's a flywheel. And I did pull a chart, and Phil's got a couple of charts up. One shows a little bit about when Jinxie started streaming to his 8 million followers. And so this chart is from Streams Charts. So he wasn't like in the first day that the product update came out, but he's right at the beginning. And then you can see from this chart just like the number of followers and the number of views. So one of the things at Riot that we discovered in our analytics was there is I'll be careful to say correlation, not causation. There was a correlation between the number of Twitch streamers and the success of a game. The more streamers that you have streaming a game, the more the game seemingly has success. And you do see that from this chart here. That's just a little bit of the data that I want to pull in to say that creators are almost as impactful as UA in the ability to light a fire under a game.
Yeah, I just want to kind of like move to the next part and just talk about maybe the learnings from this. So I think for comms teams, the sort of a clean corporate story, it's good to understand. I mean, most of them do that. It's now co-owned with a lot of external powers. Like, yes, there are the creators who are very independent, but you have also community leaders. You got the platform partners, and you even have the podcast with pundits like ourselves that are kind of weaving that narrative that you're sharing. And so I believe that if you're a great communications leader, you don't kind of surrender that narrative or try to control it by doing interviews only with controlled media outlets or, legacy media or so forth, that maybe people who don't quite understand your business. I think the best ones include external contributors before they get forced into this sort of a public arguments and to protect their narrative in these open forums. So being proactive with your story is really, really helpful. And I'm fairly close to a very senior communications leader who does this all the time, just being very proactive with the journalists and the biggest outlets.
You're very close, like your wife, for example.
yes. So I'm not fully talking out of my ass. I'm actually well versed on the comms at the highest levels. But overall, like their communication standards, like the letter is among the best in leadership artifacts in gaming or overall in industry, because it combines so many things: the performance, the accountability, the narrative, and the portfolio craft that Supercell keeps showing is amazing. Like Brawl Stars then, Clash Royale now. Yes, we can talk about how they declined afterwards or what was the role in marketing, but nevertheless, they made $3 billion with $1 billion in EBITDA. So who the cares? And I also like how they are evolving the company, especially the company governance. Like the way Ilka wrote about Squad Busters as a failure, but then use that failure to actually change the processes, the way the company runs. And for operators, again, agreeing here with Cress, the top message that the West is, complacent, or we need new hits, we need bolder bets. That's kind of a distraction from the actual facts that were shared. And that is that the legacy titles with retained audience plus elite live ops plus holistic marketing is where the growth is factually in today's market. And that organizations require middle management layers as they grow. That means gates, that means budgets, that means approval, and so forth and so forth. And I think that's kind of the key part when the industry needs to copy from this letter is the discipline rather than the top line message, perhaps. So that's me.
Yep. Just tell North America that.
I just love that Eric Kress and Mishka both defended marketing on this. Phil with the minor attack, but that's fine. That's fine. All right, let's move on to our next story. And this is a quicker one. ByteDance is in advanced talks to sell Shanghai MoonTon Technology, the studio behind popular mobile game Mobile Legends Bang Bang, to Saudi Arabia's Savvy Games Group in a deal valued between $6 and $7 billion. Sources say, obviously, hidden sources, ByteDance bought MoonTon in 2021 via its gaming unit Nuverse. Oh, remember Nuverse? Remember when Marvel Snap was part of Nuverse? So that deal at the time had the studio valued around $4 billion. So, Cress, Savvy is still on a buying spree. What do we think about this?
Again, for Schreier and Yost and all the rest of the talking heads out there, Saudi is clearly building, not destroying. So, again, they have a unique position. They can acquire all kinds of different types of companies. They're not restricted by CFIUS in the US and other agencies, And right now, they're like the only buyer, right? So there's not many companies that are actually acquiring anything right now that most of them have been consolidated. Certainly EA is a lame duck. And then Zynga doesn't look like it's going to be acquiring anything, or Take-Two is not going to be acquiring anything anytime soon. So the $6 to $7 billion seems insanely high. Like that must be some kind of earn-out thing or something going on. I don't even know how they even can get close to that. I don't even know how they can get to $4 billion. They may have revenue coming from other sources, but they're at like a $250 million run rate, according to Sensor Tower. So that does not mean that they should be acquired for $6 to $7 billion. So, but the details are very scarce. This is just kind of all rumor and speculation. But this does fit within the portfolio, though, for Savvy, frankly. But we'll see.
Yeah, 6-7 is definitely a meme price. I mean, if anybody has kids, they would get triggered by this.
Oh my
they
God,
would
you're
get
right.
Triggered by this.
Oh, the South Park episode on 6-7 was pretty funny, by the way.
Yeah, and we covered this few episodes ago. They bought originally Nuverse. ByteDance's publishing company was called Nuverse. They bought it for $4 billion in 2021. And that's also when you're looking at the graphs currently on Spotify or YouTube, you can see that the game peaked in 2021, unsurprisingly, when they got bought. And as Chris said, they have been pitching this for buyers, but there are no takers for a Chinese studio that is operating MOBA that is designed for Southeast Asia, surprisingly. So I don't know. This sounds interesting. I think if Savvy passes on this, Triple Dot will surely grab this. Their portfolio is the most eclectic portfolio I've ever seen in my life. So I bet they could operate this.
Yeah, but they don't have the resources to buy something like this.
What? I'm sure they have some financial engineering, like they acquired the 20 studios from everywhere. There's going to be like a
They
backdoor
are tapped
deal.
out. God, we haven't heard boo from them, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest publishers in the world now, and it's just silence. You know, integrating 20 studios is a lot of work. Let's just be honest.
Choking on that, dude. They're like,
It's like one of those snakes, you know, like when they grab like a gazelle. You're like, how is that snake gonna eat that gazelle?
they're
And
like
then you watch for
hibernating.
next 2 hours.
Yeah.
That would be a good meme. Triple dot acquisition of AppLovin's assets.
So hold on, Mr. Eric Kress. There's something like kind of weird here. This is like a Chinese studio selling to someone outside of China. I mean, put aside the United States, I can't think of the last time I've heard this happening.
Yeah. Aren't they Singapore?
They're Singapore.
And this is basically a
Phil.
shell company for Scopely at this point too, right? I mean, so basically Scopely is acquiring MoonTon. That would be what's going on underneath the hood, right? I mean, you're just gonna hand this over to Javier.
No. The U.S. though would have I think a tough time acquiring this, given some of the rules.
I mean, I'm saying this with sarcasm, but I mean, this is essentially Scopely buying MoonTon. I mean, that kind of is a strategic advantage if Scopely wants to go out and do things. They do it through
Or EA.
through Saudi Arabia.
EA.
Or EA at this point. That's true. Good. Well, I don't think you
EA
want
Mobile.
EA
Mobile
I think
will
we've been down that
operate
path. No, I think we're good on that one.
So just to talk a little bit about like Mobile Legends Bang Bang. So it's a MOBA, Cress's favorite, and the success of this game is primarily in Southeast Asia. I'm not sure that like Scopely or others who are very US focused on that top driving revenue from tier 1 countries would be like putting their hand up saying, yes, we need to diversify with a MOBA in Southeast Asia. So,
Well, I mean, they've had a Japanese, a China, and a Korean studio over at Scopely forever with these GMs, and I don't know what they're doing. It seems like they've been twiddling their thumbs for a while, you know, put something on their plate.
What other asset has, like in gaming, has actually grown in price from 2021?
Good point. I mean, although they spent an insane amount of money on Niantic, which hadn't been growing, right?
Yeah, but still, Niantic is probably cheaper than it was in 2021.
Yeah, probably.
all right,
All right,
Phil.
moving on.
take us to the next one. Overwatch, right?
Overwatch 2, drop the 2. It is season 1 over at Blizzard for Overwatch. They released a huge new update. And right now we're looking at daily active users on PlayStation and Xbox for Overwatch 2, Marvel Rivals, and Apex Legends. And let me tell you, they are all neck and neck, with Overwatch 2 having its largest increase in daily active users recorded. At least on this chart, they hit around looking like 1.1 across, again, PlayStation and Xbox, neck and neck with Marvel Rivals, and above Apex Legends. They are doing a ton of things to this game. I am like super happy to talk about it because honestly, I thought Blizzard was dead. I wrote a piece a while back called, you know, who killed Blizzard? And this team has like really reinvented itself. And I think they've done so many positive things to this chart. The new features they launched in the season 1 kind of revamp of the game is basically everything that was promised in Overwatch 2's initial launch. If you remember, they were trying to do PvE. They're trying to go in all these different directions. They went free to play, and none of it really landed with the player base. And this is really the launch of kind of Overwatch 2, although again, they're dropping the 2. Now it's just called Overwatch. So they've redone the UI, which was something that needed to be done for a really long time. They've launched 5 new heroes. They're also doing a lot more narrative, which again was a huge part of what drew people to this world. This is a lot of what Blizzard's DNA is telling really compelling narratives that connect with their audience. And so right now we're looking at one of the screens where you have a live ops event where you choose between either Overwatch, which again is the, you know, kind of positive faction inside of the game fighting for truth and justice, or Talon, which is kind of the evil faction, and you play for one of them, and over each week you're accumulating points for each of your factions, which unlock awards. Again, it's some storytelling, it's some narrative, it's some live ops. It's things that the game hasn't had in a really long time, and they're finally again tying in together narrative, which I think is really important. So I give them huge hats off. They've been pushing the collabs when it comes to the monetization side. They've also reinvented, I would argue, their monetization. So right now we're looking at mythic skins, which is something that's come in the game. These are incredibly high-end skins, and they have their own currency associated with them. And it's very similar to what Valorant is starting to peddle. And honestly, Marvel Rivals needs to start to take a look at is you can spend additional Prism points to further upgrade a given skin. So each skin has its own progression track that you can pay to upgrade. And so what does this do? Well, it lets you charge more per skin. So if you want to fully upgrade a Prism skin, you have to spend around $75. It's not cheap. And so they're able to build in these additional monetization features at a very low marginal cost. Because as you can see, like when you go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to level 4 in these Prism skins, it's very low marginal cost for an artist to put together recolors or to put together some VFX. Hats off to them. I think they're still trying to figure out some of the other pieces of monetization. Like if we look at one of the recent bundles they launched, which was a Hello Kitty bundle, which by the way, I just want to point out, Epic Games does not have Hello Kitty. Blizzard actually beat them to the punch. They are selling a $70 bundle for Hello Kitty. I don't think you would have ever seen this in Overwatch 1. So they're pushing the price, which you need to do in a cosmetic-based economy. And they have this beautiful, beautiful thumbnail art that we're seeing right here. The problem is that the fantasy that they're trying to sell basically stops at this thumbnail. And when you go into the individual bundle, you just see a list of items, which is something that you have on the equip screen. So basically, they're trying to duplicate UX. Let's take what we have in the equip screen and let's use that when someone goes into the bundle and they can preview items. But you need to extend the fantasy when you sell cosmetics into the point of sale. And if you look at like a loot box based economy, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do this at all. You don't need to sell the merchandise. And this is something I talk about often with clients. Like when you're a cosmetic-based economy, the merchandising is just as important as the merchandise. When you have loot boxes, you don't need to build any of this. When you're in Apex Legends, there's the only page that matters is like, do you want to buy one loot box or do you want to buy 10? But again, you're trying to sell merchandise in a direct purchase economy. You need to make that captivating throughout the sales funnel. So they're still trying to figure out, I think, some of the finer points of their monetization. But in terms of engagement, the game is as healthy as it's ever been. The community is as positive it's ever been. Hats off to this team. I hope they continue to pump. And Marvel Rivals. Let's go, baby. USA.
I want to double down on your compliment. And so Blizzard has done something really interesting, which is February is this like spotlight moment across all of the games. And I don't know if you guys got a chance to see I think it's the 35th anniversary video that they put out where the camera pans over like this desk and it's basically like old school computers, like, you know, and as it pans over, it comes up to today. So it's really this moment of marketing and product and strategy all coming together for what feels like Blizzard 2.0. I think, you know, one of the things we talked about a couple years ago when Johanna Faries took over as president of Blizzard, Kresh, you were like, I don't know, she doesn't have a lot of game industry experience. They've done a lot of reworking of all of the different teams, and it feels like things are going really well. It feels like Diablo has had a couple of moments. I think they shadow dropped some new Diablo content. I think WoW is getting a ton of new, you know, updates and like longer term story arcs. So, and then back to Overwatch, I think wasn't obvious to just drop the 2 and just go to Overwatch. They didn't necessarily know, you know, is that going to feel like a broken promise or not? But coming up to the 10th anniversary of Overwatch, you know, it's the right time. They did the right things, a year-long story arc, you know, going up into BlizzCon this year. Like, you know, wow, lots of good stuff coming from Blizzard. Interesting.
Oh, yeah. The WoW expansion looks amazing. They unlocked housing, which is a huge feature that people have been asking for forever. Yeah, Blizzard's actually doing pretty well. All right, I'll give you that.
Yeah. All they need now is like a Zillow integration, you know, for WoW houses to show up, and I think that's actually happening.
I can't believe
somewhere.
that's a PR beat. You know, it's so bizarre to me that that's actually even a thing. But, you know, whatever floats your boat.
Web stores. You've seen what good looks like, but have you experienced great? AppCharge is the direct-to-consumer platform that powers over $500 million in transactions each year for top studios. They're not just another vendor. They're backed by Supercell and built by monetization veterans from Moonactive, Playtika, and other industry giants who understand the difference between merely functional and the truly exceptional. What sets them apart? Deeply personalized web stores with custom-designed offers, industry-leading monetization features, seamless in-game payment integration, and a robust SDK. While 70% of top-grossing games already have web stores, the ones scaling the fastest are doing it with AppCharge. Ready to transform good into great? Learn more at appcharge.com.
Guessing where your users come from? That's so 2010. AppsFlyer is like having a cheat code for mobile marketing. Pinpoint attribution, real-time insights, and analytics that actually make sense. Stop flying blind and start flying smart. AppsFlyer, because your data is your best co-op partner.
Let's be honest, you're tired of chasing installs across the same crowded networks. We all are. That's why Vibes built a new playbook. They're the fastest growing gamified rewards platform, and they are helping studios scale smarter, not just bigger. Their AI-powered targeting means you will finally hit the audience you want, and with their new ROAS optimization engine, performance doesn't just grow, it actually levels up. So if you're looking for growth with a fresh angle, check out Vibes. It's built different, it's designed for growth, and it's powered by good vibes. So head over to vybs.co and get yourself some good vibes.
All right, let's go to mobile. Phil.
Let's check back in on Habi. If you remember Habi, the makers of Archero were in an incredible place ending 2025. They had an incredible cohort of games. So we had Archero 2 finally. If you remember, Archero 1 has become an absolute cesspool of mechanics. So they basically slapped everything they possibly could onto it to increase monetization. If you remember, this was also the inventor of the term hybrid casual. You had Capybara Go, which felt like an incredibly fresh and innovative new take on RPGs and storytelling. And you had Whittle Defender, which I fell deeply in love with, and I think was kind of their potentially sleeper hit. And so they looked poised to enter the top 20 publishers just in terms of strict revenue based on where they had been trending. They were just kind of hanging around 30 in terms of the global ranking. And again, it can be sometimes hard to get a complete revenue picture because of our usual caveat when it comes to China and getting revenue. And so where do we see where they are right now in 2026? Well, it's been kind of dog shit. All of those games are kind of in the shitter. Archero 2 is not doing well. Capybara Go is not doing well, and neither is Whittle Defender. And so when we look at their portfolio revenue for January and we compare it to where they were, way back in even July 24, they're trending downward. They're trending downward in a really significant way. And of course, you've got to consider that development costs have likely gone up because they're running 3 games rather than just relying on Survivor.io, which was their monster hit. And so I kind of start to wonder whether or not this studio is a paper tiger, whether or not there's been anything behind this, whether or not, to Eric Kress's point on recent podcasts, they were just blowing money on blitz scaling these games in terms of user acquisition. And there was nothing really underneath the hood here, which would surprise me. But again, like I look at run rate, and again, I'm being a little bit unfair when we look at run rate because I'm only taking January and I'm projecting that out. But if you just take where January's revenue is and you project it out, it's the worst they've ever been. And again, I just caveats. Remember, ad revenue is a huge part of their business. All those things are true. There's web store revenue. All those things are very real. But these numbers are just so far down from where they've been. It looks like they're going to leave 2026 in a worse place than when they entered it. And certainly these cohort of games have not performed.
I think there's a pretty clear explanation, and that is the gorilla that is not in the room, which is Guerrilla Games. So Guerrilla Games is the developer that made games such as Archero 1, Archero 2, Punball, Survivor.io, Capybara Go. So essentially every hit that Habi has published has been made by Guerrilla Games. And while Habi is a well-known Singaporean publisher, just like I'm a well-known Greek podcaster, Guerrilla Games has maintained a very low public profile. And folks who have their ears close to the Beijing development scene would know that Guerrilla Games is about 1,000 developers in the city. And Habi probably has a tenth of it in Singapore as well. So in short, I think this is the type of a Kilu Saibo situation or Rovio Chilingo type of a scenario kind of happening all over again. So you have a publisher that got very, very reliant on one single studio, and that one single studio just blew up in size. And that studio, as they grew, they outgrew the publisher. And that kind of breaks the business relationship unless the publisher acquires the studio early on. So I would definitely stay tuned on Guerrilla Games and what type of publisher that becomes. And I Habi clearly operates the sort of a legacy portfolio done by Guerrilla Games, while they're, scrambling to find new monkeys or gorillas to make games for them that would be as successful as the previous one. And I would expect, again, this is not a knockoff on Habi, it's just business realities. And I would expect Habi to be in a sort of a crisis mode where they're probably going to, start venturing to other platforms as well.
Is Guerrilla Games gone? Is that what you're suggesting?
Word on the street among the hot pots is that that they are not working together anymore. At least not making new games together.
Yeah. So I was going to give Philip a really hard time for using January run rate to estimate 2026. But
Fair enough, by the way.
No. But I looked at the data, dude. You're not wrong, dude. This is like going straight down, dude. Like they're at a 14 million run rate. Last year, they were at 51 million in January. They're down at 19 or 14. Sorry, 14. Holy crap.
It was a good run. It was a good
run, dude.
What about Savi picking them up?
What's you and the Saudis? You clearly want to go. I'll take you.
Well, there's nobody else buying anything. So.
He's glazing so hard. So, okay, why doesn't Scopely pick up Guerrilla Games? That's your question, right?
I'll pick either of them.
Stop talking about Habi. Habi is a publisher. They're not a developer. We don't need to talk about Habi.
All right.
Well,
sure,
Scopely isn't hybrid casual. Like that's just not their MO, their IP.
They're one gorilla away from being in hybrid casual.
Jen, we both looked at Wheel of Fortune's numbers. We know where that product was monetizing.
We'll look at where
My sweet child.
Yes. However, most of what Scopely is known for is not hybrid casual. They're in for it for an ad business on top of it. Does Scopely even have? Well, they can't buy anything themselves, but we know what they just took on Niantic. I think they're looking for casual, but I don't know, hybrid casual?
The challenge with Guerrilla is probably the language and the culture barrier and the location of those studios. That is not a Singaporean company.
That's what I would
Areem is probably, pitching them already to everybody.
Areem is trying everything they can, dude. There's like absolutely no M&A activity happening at all. Like they're shining the shoes of the prince in Saudi just so they can get a deal done.
Wow. Shots fired.
Sorry, I love you guys.
Well, but that's like the point though, right? There's nobody out there doing M&A right now. There's no money out there except for what feels like is Saudi.
We just talked about $6-7 billion acquisition. What are you talking about?
Except for Savvy.
Oh yeah. Guerrilla Games is fucking monster. Like, look at that track record. Just hit after hit. Any hybrid casual publisher would be happy to have this studio.
Yeah.
I assume this is just a hypothetical that they're going to go their own route and they're going to start self-publishing.
All right. Cress, take us to your AI topic.
All right. So AI has been a topic du jour, obviously, for the last, 12, 18 months. So Owen Mahoney, a friend of the podcast, I would say, wrote a piece in AI and gaming called Deus Ex Machina, which I think is a movie, right? I almost actually went and watched the movie again.
Isn't it Machina?
Oh, you're right. Machina. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is that a Greek word?
Shut the fuck up,
I just know it from the movie.
Just shut the up, dude. Stop it. Okay.
Get your hummus and go off to the side.
Hummus is what they eat in the Middle East.
Yeah,
taziki. God damn it.
Don't misculture us.
Yeah.
Us. I love it. Oh, God.
All right. Let me get through this. Okay. So I'm a big fan of Owen, dude. I think what Owen's done in this industry is quite phenomenal in terms of biz dev at EA, all the work that he did at Nexon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I even actually recommended him to take over Xbox in the eventual spin out, right? Because I think he'd be really good at figuring that shit out. But I think Owen, in his early retirement, has started to misthink the plot. And I think I know why. Because I think he's becoming a delusional venture capitalist, right? And all I can say to Owen is find the light, leave the darkness, okay? Because clearly you're going down the same path as other venture capitalists before you, okay? So some of his inclusions regarding AI and gaming. One, it's going to cut AAA development by 90%. Absolute horseshit. Destroy competitive advantage of large publishers. Triple the size of the game market. Create a generational opportunity. All right, I could probably get around that maybe. Transform the medium itself, not just improve existing workflows. Look, I think AI is a very seductive thesis, right? I would agree, right? And I will concede that is different than blockchain, streaming, VR, and the rest of the bullshit that was sold to us that never made any sense, right? I agree. But the notion that the technology will transform the industry just doesn't make sense at all when you actually break it down and think about the challenges that we have in front of us as an industry, right? First, cost reduction is a fucking fantasy, right? Developers do not pocket efficiency gains, right? They build more shit, right? It's the same story every time. Excel didn't shrink finance teams. It exploded them, right? And raised expectations for the product, right? AI will not make games cheaper. They'll just make them bigger and more complex, if anything. Second, IP still fucking matters, right? There are thousands of soccer games out there, but only FIFA FC that makes billions of dollars a year and has been growing at 10% annually for the last 20 years, okay? So why is that the case? They have IP relationships. They have fucking athlete licensing, deep communities, network effects. AI doesn't do shit to that, right? And it won't actually impact that at all. Third, and this is actually probably the most important thing, is that we do not have a fucking content problem. We have an attention problem, right? We have too much fucking content. We are swimming in content. I was corrected on this. Steam did 20,000 games last year. 20,000 fucking games. That's too many games. We don't need more shit, okay? We don't need millions of people making AI bullshit and throwing it out there. That just is not solve the fucking fundamental problem. What I think he is fundamentally missing about this particular technology is that the biggest opportunities from these techs is not stuff that looks like the same. It's the stuff that's new that comes out of this technology, right? And early radio, like for instance, was just people reading newspapers, and early TV was like film stage plays, right? What we need is actual new content that's created with fucking AI, that is built with AI, that is actually unique and attracts bigger audiences, broader audiences, and most importantly, monetizes better than mobile and other platforms, right? Of course, that AI will improve workflows for a lot of different things. But the idea that it's going to 3x the market by making existing games cheaper, dude, that's not the way the fucking world works, Again, the real opportunity is finding truly AI native experiences that we can't even imagine yet, and not just making NPCs chattier, like that's bullshit. Or I don't know. Anyway, all this is I think this is like just absolutely completely overblown. So anyway, I've been going down this rabbit hole for the last 3 or 4 weeks because people keep asking me this question, particularly after the fucking Google fiasco, the bullshit about the Google thing. So
the Genie 3.
Yeah, apocalypse.
Yeah. And so this is why it's become topic du jour. He actually wrote this piece in fucking October of 25, when I think we were in the absolute AI hype cycle around gaming specifically. People like Moritz are like waxing poetic about bullshit, right? So at the end of the day, he probably may have changed his tune, like the sober reality of what's actually happening out there, and the companies that have been trying to do AI native shit for like the last 2 years and nothing is happening, right? So maybe his change has happened. And I also believe, from my understanding, is that to defend Owen, is that Owen is actually looking at not being a venture capitalist, or let's hope he isn't anyway. And he wants to do more of a publishing thing. So in that capacity, he could actually be more of an operator as well as a VC. And rather than these pretend fucking venture capitalists that think they're game publishers, right? These are actually real publishers that know fucking gaming. So maybe he can bring these type of games to market. Last thing I'll say is that I think what we really need is a new platform. We need basically something like Roblox with its AI native, right? That actually has tools that are AI native that can build experiences, again, that monetize different audiences, that attract bigger audiences, and that grow the market, and that are not trying to build the same shit for mobile and console, right? That doesn't even make sense anymore. So anyway, that's it. That's all I got.
Endorse. I actually got a piece coming out about this in a couple weeks.
Is it spicy?
It's always spicy.
We've discussed this.
Yeah, feels like spicy.
Yeah, it's like hummus with chili.
Moving to Cyprus has added a little spice.
Dude, no more fucking cultural references about Greece or Cyprus, okay? Enough, dude.
Or whatever you say,
perpetrating
Aries.
the fraud, man.
Okay.
Enough.
So I have seen decks that suggest the Chinese in major games are using AI to generate 60 to 80% of their content. Now, take it for what you will. It's a bunch of hearsay. And of course, like everyone's pumping their bag when it comes to AI. Like when you see Anthropic CEO or Sam Altman talking about how AI is going to change everything, you got to remember they're raising capital. So of course they want to like
A
tout
lot
that
of
narrative.
capital.
But don't get me wrong. Like I agree with the sentiment. Like it's changed my workflow. I mean, every day I sit in a Codex window, I sit in ChatGPT. I got an OpenClaw Mac Mini that came today. So it certainly is real. I think what people are struggling to conceptualize is this supply side elasticity. I think people are trying to figure out, okay, what the cost of production goes down, what happens? So first of all, has anyone reached out to Cosmic Lounge? But putting that aside, I think the comparison here is YouTube, right? With YouTube, we dramatically decreased the cost of distributing videos. And then that was also predicated by the fact we had the smartphone, which made it much cheaper to film content. And so it's taken a very long time for YouTube to have liftoff. And right now, it's what Netflix is citing to the FTC as their true rival for time when it comes to TV. Watching YouTube is starting to rival Netflix. Where is that revolution for games? And I think you hinted at it, Eric. It's going to come from new teams, right? It's not going to come from the existing incumbents. Like this is classic innovator's dilemma. So where is that AI native platform that makes creation easier? Because just making more content just shifts the problems down the production line. So if you can make 20 new characters in League of Legends per year, now what you got to do is you've shifted the problems to how do we balance that? How do you release those characters? Like that's the next set of problems. You got to remember games are a pipeline production. It's like swallowing a big piece of food. You got to digest it. You got to go through the rest of the workings here. And I don't think we figured out what the next part of that pipeline is that can absorb all this content. But by and large, I thought this was a bad piece by Owen. I'm with you on this, Eric. I think it's kind of just this VC glazing. AI is going to change everything without kind of critically examining it.
I wanted to share a little bit of a insider info from DICE, and some of the rumors I was hearing there as well is that keep an eye on a lot of the Chinese game companies. Major layoffs are coming, and those layoffs are being attributed to AI efficiencies. So while I agree with you guys that how we should be thinking about AI is for sure right now, today, it's looking like efficiencies, doing things faster, getting things done. And I think there is a different perception of how AI is being used in the East versus the West. In the East, they're like, we're going to lay people off. In the West, I think we have player Luddites that are out there. We've talked about this many, many times, which is players might have a backlash to games being made with AI. In Hollywood, I don't know if you guys saw the 15-second clip of Tom Cruise versus Brad Pitt on a destructive rooftop building that was done with 2 lines of input in AI. I think there's a lot of players and creators who are starting to have the Luddite, like reactionary to AI that might make a lot of people allergic. So that's going to be something interesting I want to keep an eye on. But Cress, where I also wanted to agree with you is you're right that we have a share of time problem and share of wallet problem. So share of time is everyone is paying attention to short form video and these other things. And with the glut of content, discoverability is a problem. And spending time on things is a problem. And so without something, a new platform, a new reinvention, we're all taking share away from each other because there's only so much time in a day. So Mishka, what else, glow about CEO's ability to write blogs?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, CEOs can write good fucking blog posts. I do have to say that. This is the second one we're talking about in this podcast. And just as a background, like this piece is written by a former public company CEO who's clearly very bullish on AI. And yes, it does have several hallmarks of the hype writing. The grand historical sweep that comes in kind of like really tells you that this is the big thing that is changing. There's the quintessential Eric Hoffer quote, sort of a VC type of a call for beginner's mind type of an aspect. But overall, I feel like it's more intellectually honest than most in this genre, because the subtitle is literally, if you have a strong opinion about the future of AI in games, you are probably wrong. And Owen applies this humility somewhat consistently. But since this is a pundits podcast with some criticism, I have some. So first of all, I want to start with what Jen said. The piece is very careful to say that AI replaces production labor and not creative labor. This is the common and sort of a comforting distinction that the executives in the West feed the employees, who they want to train the AI models and the AI tools that make each of them so much more efficient. And where that efficiency leads, well, we don't know, but we have to grow quarter over quarter. And yet Owen kind of cites the history himself with monks being replaced by printing presses, with carriage makers being replaced by cars. And he doesn't really support the idea that the creative layer is actually safe in gaming. And just kind of going back to the printing press that he was talking about, it didn't get eliminated by copying it. It restructured who got to be the author. And AI is in the same way restructuring who gets to be a programmer, who gets to be an art director, who gets to be a designer, who gets to be an analyst. So this kind of is taking that layer away. There was also a claim that we as game developers have an unhealthy fixation in Hollywood. It's metaphors, it's job titles, the production structures, the sort of a whole green light process. I don't know where this comes from.
We totally have an inferiority complex. You kidding me? We're just talking about Dream Games blowing all this money so the CEO could go meet LeBron.
Was that the case? Like, I don't think so. And plus, since when LeBron is Hollywood? That's NBA.
What is the number one fact we love to shove to the general populace when we talk about games? Jen, please do the line for us.
The games industry is bigger than movies, music, and TV combined.
Thank you, Jen.
Well, I think it's just an easy to understand as a business when you're comparing it to business. What should it be? Like, oh, gaming is bigger than printers or like printer toner sales. Like what? Like people just understand that. So it's a good reference and it's also entertainment. But again, this might be my bias because I grew up in this industry in Finland, which is as far away from Hollywood as you can really get. And I don't remember anybody talking about the way Hollywood movies are being made and how we should copy that. So I don't know where this comes from. Maybe it's Owen's perspective as somebody of a generation older than myself and kind of living through the heydays of Hollywood. Then there was the Ben Thompson's unbundling framework, which was interesting and genuinely very useful to understand the history of media and the sort of a sequential value chain. You create, you duplicate, you distribute, and how he was kind of showing how that changed throughout the history. But then again, let's unbundle that games are interactive systems. They're not content per se. So the unbundling metaphor maps cleanly into linear media, text, audio, video, because the value change is very sequential. But with games, it doesn't work the same way, especially free-to-play games. And Mahoney actually acknowledges this briefly, but then kind of moves on to the next thing. Then there's a lot of citing of Embark, which makes sense because Nexon funded Embark. And they're proving as like repeatedly as a proof that AI can deliver AAA quality in games at 10x lower cost.
This whole narrative about Embark, I mean, this is basically DICE 2.0. These are like the most expensive developers in the fucking planet that are working for one of the biggest gaming companies on the planet.
Yes.
There's just there's no AI achievements of efficiencies for a team like that. Like it cost them at least $200 or $300 million to make their game after the finals, right? Which was like a proof of concept of building out the engine and stuff like that. So it's like, obviously he's far closer to this than I am, but I can't even imagine that they didn't make it for less than 200 million, right?
Embark's AI story, especially when it comes to cost cutting. First of all, I don't know if they've made any cost cutting claims, but there's a lot of smoke and mirrors on how they've used AI in that game.
It's just the way he positions it. Yeah, it's all bullshit. Owen, I love you, man, but like Jesus, like stop that. Stop referring to Embark as any like proof of concept around fucking efficiencies around AI or anything for that matter. There's no efficiency with that team. It's the same fucking team that was at DICE, you know?
But it's great writing. It's great. He talks about like how he played against the boss and then the boss kind of sat on him and he tried for the third time and now he sat faster. Like even I remember that. Like it's a good writing. I'll give him that.
Well, Patrick Soderlund is Embark, right? Like Patrick was on the Game Business podcast and he did have this section that I heard intently, which is he talked about how AI was used to enhance their content pipelines, how it helped them to make content more quickly because they were having to compete against how do we make content to keep up with the Chinese developers and how do we be 10x better? He didn't talk about that going from 300 to 30 million or anything like that.
Do you know how much money fucking Soderlund blew on the goddamn engine from DICE that fucking tried to like force fit it and want everything fucking at EA?
Yeah.
Dude, he was partially responsible for the fucking disaster that was EA development for years, decades. Like before that, it was all the Canadians, right? Fucking Don Matrick and those crew. Nothing those guys say about cost efficiency and making the right investments holds any water for me, right? Because they don't know. They know so much, but they did so much too, right? It's like it's bullshit.
Yes.
It's absolute.
Do you know how
bullshit.
much he spent on just the jump sequence in Anthem? I mean, Patrick Sutherland was in so many design creeks about getting the jump sequence and Anthem right. I mean, they probably blew 10 million just on that.
No, and every story I've heard about him is all about feature creep and coming in last minute and making all kinds of creative decisions that cost time and delayed products. These guys do not have a leg to stand on when they start talking about this shit. You know, like honestly, they just don't, you know?
Those are all true stories in the past. I am telling you what I heard most recently. And, you know, him now doing a new studio and now learning what they learned from the finals and then seeing what they've learned and applying that to Arc Raiders. Could they have evolved their thinking? Yeah. Could they have set up these pipelines? Because he had to, because he doesn't have the power. I mean, he had Nexon, you know, supporting him.
It's bootstrapped by Nexon. What are you talking about?
It's just laughable. Like, this is a PR spin. It's a total PR spin bullshit. Dude.
I would love to go
this
deeper.
Is DICE, you know?
Yeah. Nexon, how big is Nexon? Is it bigger than EA?
Well, didn't Nexon get their ass kicked in earnings too, Cress? You'd probably know this.
Oh, I haven't looked. Sorry, I'm trying to stay away from the stocks these days.
Because you're like semi-retired. But
that's what I wanted to get away from is the stress of the stocks going up and down all the time. But Jesus, yeah, have you seen Unity? Man, Unity's on its ass, dude.
I wrote.
You ask Josh motherfucking Chanley about why the was he pushing Unity so hard? These guys are getting absolutely annihilated, right? Anyway, all right.
I don't know.
Sorry, I want to make 2 more points before we go. I did get some good feedback on the post, generally speaking. Some people are so like enamored with user acquisition, like that's like the holy grail of all things growth in this industry. I just don't think they understand like cost of user acquisition has gone up so dramatically that is not a fucking driver of growth. That is like an absolute value for the rich, not like growing this business. Anyway, what I want to say is this, is that mobile was the last bastion of growth for this industry, right? 20% CAGR for 10, 12, 15 years. We are no longer seeing that growth. What we need in order to see 3x growth from here, as Mr. Owen suggests, is a new platform that opens up opportunities for geography, for demographic, and most importantly, for monetization. And so for the UA people that were out there commenting on this stuff that don't know f*** all about this business besides UA, mobile is shit, right? Because it's a 3% conversion on most downloads that you're getting, right? Like that is a monetization disaster, a nightmare, right? We need to improve that, right? And so your UA funnel, all that you're doing for UA is trying to attract this small percentage of people that are spending. There's a huge audience of people that are playing mobile games on a regular basis that aren't monetizing. We need to figure out a platform that does that. If AI can unlock something there, that is absolutely huge, right? Absolutely massive for the potential of growth for interactive. That's what we need to look at. We don't want to create more mobile games. We don't want to create more AAA games. We don't even want to create more indie games. We got more indie games than we know what to do with, dude. We are like getting shoveled indie games constantly, right? That is not the answer. The answer is something new that captures the hearts and minds of different audiences, and most importantly, the wallets of these audiences.
Yeah, share time and share of wallet. Like if you don't get both, then there's not going to be growth.
And take them away from fucking TikTok, you know?
Yeah.
Like, get them off the fucking doom scrolling and start to play interactive, which is obviously a far better entertainment than
and UGC is or isn't it, or might be it part
could
of it.
Be.
Yeah, I think it could be. I mean, I think if you built the right platform, potentially. But it can't be crap.
Of hype.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop. I want to tie a bow on my point on Owen's post. Okay. Is like, I think it's a thoughtful bull case from very sophisticated insider. And I think the most honest sentence is in the subtitle, which he then spends 5,000 words walking back. So
that is a good point, right? And Owen, walk away from the dark. Go to the light. Stay away from venture capital.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for this week. One plug I forgot to mention, I'm going to be at AppsFlyer's Mama event next week. It's exciting. I'm going to go talk to UA and be a marketer. I'm going to cosplay being a marketer.
I've done that event. It's a good event.
It'll be awesome. All right. See you guys next week.
See you guys.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you'd subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Those stars and likes, while a small action on your part, mean a lot to us and help to grow the show. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructoroffun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand, or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.